everybody. I'm Congressman Maxwell Frost, proudly representing Florida's 10th Congressional District, and appreciate seeing everybody here today, and also appreciate seeing all the organizers, survivors, families of victims, and activists that have joined us today, because this movement isn't just about the legislators, it's about the survivors, the stories of the families, organizers, and people from the communities who have stepped up to help end gun violence, because a problem that starts in the community is going to end in the community. We're just going to support that. Before I start, I want to acknowledge something. As I was walking from my office at the Capitol to file the bill, I ran into the students from the New 10 Action Alliance, and we took a photo and hugged. And little did I know, during that interaction, news was breaking of a school shooting in Denver, Colorado, where 2 school administrators at East High School were shot and are now in the hospital. So I wanted to take a moment of silence and solidarity for the 2 people shot, their families, the community, and the countless of other folks traumatized and impacted at that school. I was hoping for a more joyous tone as we take this critical action to end gun violence, but yet another shooting is a somber reminder of why we do this work. It's shooting after shooting, trauma after trauma, bullet after bullet, death after death. In fact, I come from a generation that is almost defined by the amount of trauma and gun violence that we've grown up through, really being a generation of lockdowns, really being a generation of mass shootings, feeling like we've been through more mass shooting drills in school than fire drills. And that's the experience that I bring to Congress, that organizers bring to the work. You know, I got involved in this work 11 years ago when I was 15 years old because of the Sandy Hook shooting. Ended up coming here to Washington, D.C. for the vigil, and it was there that my life was changed forever, meeting the families of the victims, the survivors, learning their stories, seeing that pain at 15 years old. I remember going back to my hotel room and committing the rest of my life to end gun violence. But little did I know that 3 years later, armed bigotry and hate would hit my town of Orlando and claim the lives of 49 beautiful angels. And just 3 months after Forbes, I'd survived gun violence myself in downtown Orlando on Halloween. I came to Congress to continue this fight, to build a nation without the fear of gun violence. And that's why I wanted to ensure that my first piece of legislation as a member of Congress had to do with ending gun violence. The issue that got me into politics, and the issue that I believe, unfortunately, defines a generation. Because gun violence is a daily event in this country, we have to work on this issue every single day and establish it as a federal daily priority. And this bill takes an important step in establishing gun violence prevention as a permanent priority of the federal government, creating the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And just a few weeks ago in my district, gun violence hit us really hard. 3 people were shot and killed, including a 9-year-old girl. This issue is robbing our kids of their childhoods and decimating families. It's impeding on the liberty and freedoms of our people, because right now, if you are a child in this country, and God forbid you die, the most likely reason would be because you were shot to death. In 2023, in the United States of America, the leading cause of death for children is gun violence. That's a policy failure. It's unacceptable. And today we're proposing a good step so we can save lives. This bill would ensure that the federal government has a coordinated response to end gun violence. Gun violence being one of the issues that has the least amount of research and data money going towards it, that claims 100 lives a day. And so this is about both preventative and reactionary measures to ensure that we end gun violence, that we get at the root causes, that our cities and that our municipal government, state, and folks here in Congress and across the entire country have the data and research they need to work on this issue in a real way. That's incredibly important. We need to have the information that's needed to craft legislation that will actually save lives. That is why our constituent set us here. And it's also about coalescing and aggregating that data and giving it to communities in a way where people can understand just what this issue is, why people commit gun violence, how, and how we can stop it. This is going to help communities across the country. It's not just the about the federal government, and this is our job. It's about preserving the freedoms and liberties of our people. And I think about the late Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, when she said, what the people want is simple. A country as great as its promise. There is no promise greater than freedom and liberty for every single person, no matter who they are. And the greatest freedom of all being the freedom to live. Thank you very much. And now I'll introduce, thank you. Now I'll introduce Senator Chris Murphy.
Thank you very much, Congressman Frost. I am humbled to be your Senate partner on your first piece of legislation as a game-changing member of the House of Representatives. I'm excited to be here with my colleague Richard Blumenthal, who's partnering with us on this legislation. But I'm really excited to be here with all of the advocates, students, the parents who have grown this movement over the last 10 years. My life changed the day that a gunman walked into Sandy Hook Elementary School and fire on kids and teachers. Of course, the change in my life was nothing compared to the change in the lives of families who lost loved ones, who went through trauma that day. But I've been so proud to be part of a movement over the last decade that Maxwell has been an integral member of, as we have grown political power such that today the anti-gun violence movement is more powerful than the government, right? And that's not nothing, because this was one of the most powerful lobbies, one of the most powerful interest groups in Washington, D.C. And in 10 short years, we have gotten to the point where they no longer run this. In fact, parents and kids and community members that are having their say finally inside the bill. That's what allowed us to pass the first gun safety measure in 30 years through the United States Congress last summer. Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, saving lives. 5 major changes in gun laws, $58 billion for school and community safety, mental health, resources. No, of course it's not anywhere close to what we need. But every great change movement in this country had a first step. This is a pretty big first step. And let me tell you why this piece of legislation is so important for the work that we have ahead of us. So over the last several months, I have dived in to implementing the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And I've had a parade of federal agencies on the phone and in my office. It's busy to understand how many different offices, how many different federal officials are involved in just implementing this one bill. A bill that doesn't solve the whole problem. Multiple agencies, multiple offices, DOE, DOJ, HHS, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, ATF. They all have a role to play in keeping our communities safe. But nowhere in the federal government is one office dedicated every single day to coordinate the effort of addressing gun violence. It's so badly needed, in part because the federal bureaucracy tends to lurch from crisis to crisis. And when you're dealing with crises overseas, pandemics and natural disasters, you can occasionally take your eye off the ball when it comes to the issue that matters most every single day to American citizens, the physical safety of themselves and their children and their families. So this legislation establishes inside the Department of Justice a permanent office dedicated to protecting us from gun violence is so badly needed. Both to coordinate all the efforts that are underway to implement the legislation we pass next year, but then to help shape and midwife the next set of solutions that we need. And while we have no doubt that Joe Biden is committed to implementing the law, committed to pushing us to pass universal background checks and ban assault weapons, what about the next administration? We can't be sure that the next president is going to be as committed as this administration is. That's why we need a permanent, statutorily authorized office to coordinate gun violence measures inside the administration. So my hope is that we're going to be able to pick up a lot of support for this on both sides of the aisle, just like we were able to get bipartisan support for the measure last year. And I'll leave you with this before turning over to the Senator. Representative Frost is right. We're losing a generation of kids. I live in the south end of Hartford, which is one of the neighborhoods with higher rates of gun violence. I went to the local K-8 school a few months ago just to meet with student leaders, to talk to them about what was on their mind. I didn't go to talk to them about gun violence. I just wanted to hear from them what they wanted their member of the Senate, their neighbor, to be doing for them. And, you know, as with any group of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, it took a little while to warm up, but after they got comfortable with me, they wanted to talk to me about one thing, and one thing only. They wanted to talk to me about their walk to and from school. They wanted to talk to me about the fact that they fear for their life when they leave their house. So many of their parents after school tell them, you've got to walk home, get inside the house, lock the doors. You're not allowed to go out to the playground to play with your friends. We are losing a generation of kids because we pay attention to the mass shootings, but we don't understand the trauma that those kids are going through every single day, every morning, every afternoon, because of their exposure to this epidemic. And that's the benefit that Representative Frost brings to this debate. He is a member of a generation that lives with this reality. He is a personal exposure to this epidemic. And I have confidence with him as a leader inside the Senate, that he's going to be just as successful as he was as an advocate outside the House and the Senate. We're going to need him to pass this legislation in the Senate. We're going to watch him lead this debate in the House, and I couldn't be more proud to join him on this first incredibly important piece of legislation. With that, let me turn it over to my great friend, Mark, in the Senate.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you to your leadership. Thank you to Congressman Frost. Thank you to all of the advocates, the champions who are here today. You know, I'm so inspired. Far away, many of you are reliving trauma by being here today. Many of you are going through the grief and tragedy that you felt in your own lives. You're bearing witness. This picture is worth 1,000 words. You know, I'm tempted to say the baton is passed, but it's more like we have a great new runner in our relay race. I'm really proud to be with you today. You know, as I was listening to him, I was thinking to myself of a generation that grew up hiding under desk in elementary school, fearing nuclear bomb attack. That fear has been overcome. We no longer have the nuclear bomb drills. We should no longer have the active shooter drills. We're going to make those active shooter drills as much a matter of history as the nuclear bomb drills have become in our schools. With your help, we are going to conquer this epidemic, a bad surge in our country of continuing gun violence. Make no mistake, it's not getting better. We're not winning. If gun violence is the leading cause of child death in the United States of America, shame on us, shame on everybody who works in these buildings, and shame on the folks, the 9 people who work in that building across the way, the United States Supreme Court, who may cripple many of these efforts. We need to overcome rulings by a United States Supreme Court that threatens the legal basis for all of these measures. And we need to think beyond legislation. This movement has to be even broader than it is now. But the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Every one of these steps makes a difference. Make no mistake. They said we couldn't advance red flag steps. They said we couldn't close the boyfriend loophole. They said that we couldn't do any of the measures that are in the Safer Communities Act, and we did. Because we have growth in the vice-like grip of the NRA and the entire country. The It is a shadow of what it was. And we are making progress right here because of the advocates. It isn't because we as representatives or senators are more persuasive or more compelling what we said. It is the movement at the grassroots level. It is the organizers and the organizing and the folks who respond to this call to action. Now, creating an office is more than just a symbol, more than just a sign of commitment. It has to be a real focal point. Every organization has a point person. Every organization has a leader. This office can be a leader. And could it be done administratively? Yes. But doing it by statute gives it permanence and security. When people say, I want to contact the administration, that's where they can go. And it isn't just ordinary citizens. It's state and local officials who right now are in a quandary about who to contact. It is members of state legislatures who are so much progress has been made, and where we have to count on future progress as well. So we can really make a difference with this kind of point person, point office, a place where resources can be mobilized, galvanized, and where a lot of energy can be front. Finally, let me just say again, thanks to all of the great advocates and folks who are here today. I'm always proud to stand with you. You know, we wouldn't be where we are. No problem without you. And we know you are responding to what you see in your own lives, what you have experienced. And my guess is that there are people in this group who are going on. I hope so. We need you. Thank you. And I was supposed to introduce, I'm sorry, it says here Representative Frost introduces Poe Murray, but I really love the idea of introducing Poe Murray. My wonderful friend, one of the most effective and compelling people I know, whose heart is in it.
Devastating toll on our mental health as we watch our peers die, with no serious action taken by too many members